Okay, Marissa, this is now, let's see here, October. Wait a second. Come on, come on. Okay, sorry. This is October, what is it, 12th today? And I'll do October 13th, what we're going to go over tomorrow. Okay? Mrs. Hanson said, one second, I got this bouncing here. Okay. Mrs. Hanson said that you're struggling with what we call standard form. Okay, so standard form is just another way we're going to write an equation so that we can put an equation in a different form. It's called standard form. You were putting everything in what we call a slope-intercept form. You probably did this earlier this week. So slope-intercept form always looked like this. Y equals mx plus b. And that's the form you want it in, because in that form, you can graph it really quick, really easy. Now, this form is just a different look, and the form is called standard form. So it looks like this. Instead of solve for y, you have the x term on one side and the y term on the same side. So x term, y term on the same side. This is just a number. We call it c, and c is for constant. Okay, so for instance, this would be standard form. 3x plus 2y equals 5, where a is 3, b is 2, and c is 5. Okay? Now, there are three rules you have to follow when you're in standard form. Standard form is simply going to be this. When you write your equation, ax plus by equals c, the first thing you have to know is the a, right here, a has to be positive. So you got to have a positive number. Okay? For a, just a. Not b, not c, just a. 2, second thing you have to have, you cannot have any fractions, so no fractions allowed. And what else? Decimals. Okay? So, if you had something like this, 3x plus, and 3x is good by the way, plus 0.2y equals 4. Right here, this is right where you say this is trouble. We're going to get rid of that. Okay, so that is not in standard form. You and I will deal with that in a second. Number 3, your ax term and your bx term. I'm sorry, not bx, by term. Ax and by must be on the same side. Same side of the equal sign. Okay. So now, what I'm trying to say is you want this 3x plus 4y equals 7. That's good. But 3x plus 7 equals 4y. That is not good. That's the one we don't want. This one. We want this one. Okay. So three rules. A must be positive. No fractions, no decimals, and the ax term and the by term must be on the same side of the equal sign. I should have said same, I didn't do this, same side of the equal sign, okay? All right, let's try a few. Okay, if you look at your notes, the first one I tried was this. 10x, take away y, equals -5. Okay, the only problem I'm having with this is, you always have to say, is this in standard form? But right about here, you should be saying to yourself, the a has to be positive, and we have a negative 10x. So the only way I want you to get rid of that is just when you see a negative 10 or just negative x, let's get rid of it by dividing everything by negative 1. Okay, when dividing by negative 1, it just turns your negative 5 into 5. It turns your negative y into positive y, and your negative 10x becomes positive 10x. And now number 1 in your notes is now done. And here's how you know it's done. A is positive, 10 is positive, okay? Your ax, your by are on the same side of the equal sign. And last, there are no decimals and there are no fractions up here. So we're done. This is it. That's our answer. Okay? All right, number 2. Number 2 says y plus 1 equals negative x times x plus 3. Okay. Whenever you see grouping symbols, you need to take care of the multiplier on the outside, and the multiplier here is negative, but there's always a number. If you don't see a number, put the 1 there. So you're going to take negative 1 times x, negative x. Negative 1 times 3, negative 3. The y plus 1 can stay here. Don't move it. Just take and distribute the negative 1 through. Okay? Now the nice thing about this is there are no fractions, there's no decimals, so you don't have to worry about that. Is A positive? Well, if you look here, A is not positive, it's negative. So the only way to get this positive is to slide this over with the y. To do that, how do you get rid of minus 1x? You add 1x. Okay, so if you add 1x to that side, they cancel out. But if you add x to this side, well, now what's left is negative 3 on the right. You've got x plus y on the left, followed by plus 1. And now, x and y are on the same side. There are no fractions, there are no decimals. The only thing you have is you have your c value right here, but you have another constant right here. So this needs to jump over with the negative 3. To do that, let's just subtract 1 here and subtract 1 there. 1 minus 1 is gone. X plus y equals x. Here's x. X plus y equals, these two make negative 4. You now have it in standard form. 1x, x is positive. X and y are on the same side. No fractions, no decimals. We're good. It's not that bad. It's just, you just have to keep asking yourself those questions. Are my 3 rules being followed here? Okay, this is the first one where you run into a fraction. And you will see a lot of fractions on your assignment. So let's get this one taken care of. Nobody likes fractions, so that's one of the rules, no fractions. So to get rid of a fraction, you look right here at the denominator. So what you do is you say, I want to get rid of the 5. So you say, I'll multiply both sides by 5. Okay, there you go. And you end up with 5y on this side. On this side, I'll put 5 here. Okay, you go this times this. You know that's negative 35 divided by 5, which is negative 7. But really what you could do is just cancel the 5 with the 5, and all that's left is negative 7x. And then, of course, this 5 times this 1 is 5. Okay. The fractions are now gone. That's what you want. Then ask yourself, is A positive? Here's A right here. A is not positive. It's negative. So I say kick it over to this side. How? Well, if it's minus 7x, let's go plus 7x. Plus 7x. 7x, take away 7x, is all gone. You get 5 equals 7x plus 5y equals 5. There it is. That's it. A is positive. X and y are on the same side. No fractions, no decimals. We're good. And flip it. When you flip it, you get this look. negative 3y equals x plus 6.6. All right, here's the first one where you see a decimal. A decimal, it's pretty simple to get the decimal out of there, because if you remember, when you take a number like 10 and you multiply it by any number, 4, you get 40. But if you take 10 times, let's say, 4.4, you get 44. So whenever you multiply by 10, what happens is the decimal behind the 4 just moves over 1. The decimal here just moves over 1, and you get 44. So anytime you take 10 times a number with a decimal in it, like 3.6, you get 36. So it's really easy to get rid of the decimal. So this one, you'd say 6.6. How do I get rid of it? Multiply by 10. Multiply by 10. 10 times this, negative 30y. 10 times x, 10x. 10 times 6.6, hey, look, it's gone. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Multiply by 10 to get rid of a decimal. But if the number would have been 0.66, don't multiply by 10, multiply by 100, because that would move the decimal 1, 2, so you'd get 66. If it's 0.654, then you want to multiply by 1,000 to move it over 1, 2, 3. Okay? Let's keep going. Here, is the a value positive? Yes, 10x is positive, so leave it here. So what I do is I take the y term and I push it over here. I take the 66 and I push it over here. And how do I do that? I go minus 30y plus 30y plus 30y. 30y, take away 30y is gone. Sorry, negative 30y, add positive 30y is gone. The 66, to get 66 out of there, you go minus 66. Gone, that's 0. Minus 66. All right. I know this looks like a mess, but just take your time. On the left, you got negative 66. On the right, you have 10x. You have plus 30y. And that's it. Now, my question is always the same. Is your a value positive? Yeah, positive 10. Are the x and the y term on the same side? Yes. Are there any fractions or decimals? No. We're good. So this can be your answer. Now, the reason I said can is because it's really not in simplest form. Now, simplest form would be work with numbers as small as you can. If you look at the three numbers are all divisible by 2. So if you divide by 2 here, you get negative 33. If you divide by 2 here, you get 5x. And of course, you divide this by 2, you get 15y. Okay? So this would be considered simplest form. So put it in simplest form whenever you can. If you left it like this, it's not that it's wrong, it's just tougher to work with, and it's much easier to work with smaller numbers, so try to do that. All right, 5. This is the fifth one, negative 7 plus y equals x minus 1/2. Okay? Again, look at the denominator. You want this to go away, so just multiply by 2. And multiply this, both sides by 2. 2 times this, and 2 times this. And then, of course, over here, multiply by 2. Here, here. You'd end up with negative 14 plus 2y equals 2x. And then this 2 and this 2 cancel, and then you end up with minus 1. Looking at the x term, it's positive. Leave it. Don't touch it. Move this over with the x term. Subtract 2y. Subtract 2y. Okay. Out with the y's. And now that that 1 over there needs to go over here with the 14. Again, show your work. Plus 1. Plus 1. Okay. These are out. 2x minus 2y equals negative 14 plus 1 is negative 13. The a value is positive, x and y are on the same side, and there are no fractions, there are no decimals, we're good. Okay, that's it. The last one is a little, like, kind of messy, but they're on your homework, so you got to look at this. Okay. Many students today were confused with this one because they just didn't know how to get rid of a 4 on the bottom and a 2 on the bottom. And I kept asking them, how would you get 4 and 2 to cancel out? You have to multiply by a number. Okay, and some of them said, just multiply by 2. And 2 is good to cancel with this 2, but 2 over here, Marissa, would end up giving you 2 over 4. And 2 over 4 is still a fraction, so we couldn't go with the 2. So 2 is not good enough. So what do? We got to look at both of them. 2 and 4, I say whatever 2 and 4 go into, that's the number that will cancel with them. So you know what that is? That's the lowest common denominator. What does 2 and 4 go into? They both go into the number 4. Okay? So what you do is you multiply by the common denominator 4. And when you do it, you get this. 4 times 5 is 20. 20 divided by 2 is 10. Or better yet, cancel the 2 once. Cancel 2 in here twice. 2 times 5 is 10x. Okay? But now, the 4 comes back. Don't forget, you got to take 4 times this 2. 4 over 1. The 4 cancels with the 4. What's left is 1y. And of course, 4 times 1. 4. Okay, we're done. A is positive. X and Y are on the same side. No fractions, no decimals. We're good. Okay, so that's Thursday. That was today. Tomorrow, Friday, it's the same thing, except you're going to graph it. So when you graph it and you have it in what we call standard form, and you're going to have to work at this. You're going to have to put it in standard form. And I'm going to make one up. 6x plus 3y equals 12. Okay? We call this standard form graphing. So standard form graphing talks about this. You're not going to get the slope. You're not going to get the y-intercept. But what you're going to get is this. You're going to look for the x-intercept. You're going to look for the y-intercept. And the nice thing about the x-intercept and the y-intercept, it's kind of the same, but here's the deal. On the x-intercept, by the way, the x-intercept is wherever a line crosses the x-axis. So this would be a point. What's this point? Well, it's whatever x is, but the neat thing is, here's what's neat. Y will always be 0. So when looking for the x-intercept, let y be 0. That's all you have to do. Now the y-intercept will be right here, where the line crosses the y-axis. The neat thing about the y-intercept is that you're looking for y, but x will always be 0. So in this one, it's going to be 0, comma, y. Okay? So this is what you're going to do. You're going to solve for x for the x-intercept. You're going to solve for y for the y-intercept. Okay, so now let me erase a couple things. Okay, that's gone. Now let's try this. If you're looking for the x-intercept, you put 0 in for y. And this is so nice because when you go 6x plus 3 times 0, you get basically, this cancels out, you get 6x equals 12. Divide by 6, x equals 2. Not sure why I have this here. Okay. That's how you find the x-intercept. It's going to be 2, 0. Well, how do you find the y-intercept? You do the same thing, except this time you let x be 0. Then you work it out. You show your work. Okay, and when you show your work, it looks like this. 6 times 0 plus 3y equals 12. This cancels out. 3y equals 12. Y equals 4. I've got my x-intercept, I've got my y-intercept, I am graphing out of standard form, so really all I have to do is graph those 2 points and I've got it, okay? So here we go. Where's the x-intercept? 4, 0. Where's the y? Oh, I did that wrong, I'm sorry. 2, 0. Where's the y-intercept? 0, 4. And here it is. There's your line. There's your line. Okay? There's the other side of your line, I should say. And that's how you graph out a standard form. Look for the x, look for the y-intercept. Okay? The problems might get a little messy. I'm looking at example 3 in your notes. Example 3 looks like this. 1/3 x plus 2y equals -2. Okay? It says graph the linear function using standard form graphing. Well, it's in standard form. It does have a fraction, so you know I'm going to get rid of the fraction by multiplying by, maybe you already know, I hope you know, by 3. Okay? But if I multiplied by -3, I would make the x term positive, so I'll try -3. 3 is out with 3. Negative times negative is positive x. Okay? Multiply this by -3. You get -6y. Multiply this by -3. You get 6. Okay. Now you have it in what form? Standard form. To graph it, go get the x-intercept, which is find x, right here, let y be 0. Then go get the y-intercept, which means you'll go get your y, but you're going to let x be 0. So here we go. 0 goes in for y, and you get x minus 6 times 0 equals 6, out with this. And now it says x take away nothing. Well, that's just x. And x equals 6 in this case, so my x-intercept is 6, 0. Okay, try the other one. The other one would be the y-intercept. So now put 0 in for x and see what happens. 0 take away 6, y equals 6. Well, 0 is nothing, don't write it down even. Divide both sides by -6. Answer? -1. And there you go. 0, -1 is the y-intercept. Okay, so if I graph it quickly, it should be just like this. 0, -1 would be here. And 6, 0 would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right here. There she goes, right there. That's your line for number 3 in your notes today, or actually Friday. Okay? I know I did a lot of that pretty quick, and I know you probably have questions, but do your best And then next week is review on Monday, review on Tuesday, followed by a quiz on Wednesday. So there's really no more new stuff coming. So if you can learn what I just talked about, you've pretty much learned the whole week. Okay? Good luck. Good luck. I hope it goes well.